So I was watching one of my favorite channels this morning, Jon Levi. Came across this comment in the comment thread here by Douglas Duval asking John to do one on Port Townsend, Washington. So I decided I would do a little investigation on that town and bring you a couple visuals. Before getting to that, let's get to the top here. Show you John's channel, Jon Levi. One of the best in this research as far as his open-minded approach and the work he's done over the years. I highly recommend a sub if you haven't subbed. Most likely you're probably subbed to him anyway if you're following me, but if not, check him out. Alright, let's get into Port Townsend. And I'd never heard of Port Townsend. So let's take a quick look at where it's located. Right up here on the peninsula, not far from Seattle, right in on this mess of Victoria, Vancouver area. Okay, so let's have a closer look at Port Townsend. We'll start with the county courthouse, Jefferson County Courthouse. We'll get right into this one a little bit later on in the video. Let's jump over to Wikipedia. The funny little story, this town has a couple of names. They call it the Key City, known as a Victorian town. At one time supposedly was on its way, or was estimated to be, the largest city on the west coast of the States, which obviously never happened. As you go through the timeline, they basically say the city was in decline by the 1890s, or I should say all the dreams of expansion faded as you get into the 1890s. And then when we look at the population of the city, this is key. I want you to remember this as we check out the pictures. Here, the population of this town by year, and you can see, I mean, it's only really 10,000 now. So have a look here. We're looking at 900 in 1880, then some big jump to 1890, no doubt to explain away the architecture, and then a decline here. See that? So it's a very small town even to this day, but you wouldn't think it with some of these buildings. First we get a bird's eye view of what the town supposedly looked like in 1870, and you have a lot of the prominent buildings listed off over here, but the drawing is pretty plain. So we'll take a look at some street scenes here. Interesting with all the poles. You have already having what looks like those column type fronts, and you got a bit of tech going on here. The lights in the middle of the street. So nothing new as far as that goes. And then of course you get the brickwork with the dental moldings and all these types of things. Remember, this is a small town of a couple thousand people. Right. I really like the brickwork here, you can see, and then the arches built into the brickwork itself. Very ornate, very skilled work. Another street scene. I really got the feeling as I was checking out the street scenes that there should be some sort of rail car going down the middle. And after doing a little bit of researching, I started to get a little bit frustrated. So where's the rail car? It just feels like it's been pulled out from here already. But as you'll see, I did find one. There's the street lights in the middle of the street. These are a feature you see in a lot of the old world photographs. Again, look at the texture here of the buildings. A little bit later on here, this one's a beauty. There'll be another one of these later on in the video. And another one. Get that muddy streets and built out curbs, like properly built, old curb looking, and then the muddy street. So it either tells me we've got a layer of mud here and brick underneath, or the brick's been pulled. I don't know. A postcard from the same era. This one very blurry. Having a fountain here in the middle of town. Remember how small this town is again. You get the old style buildings popping out. Boom, boom, boom. And then your basic gable roofs, and there's a hip. But nothing fancy really here. And this is the fountain again, where this gentleman used to have a trout that jumped through a hoop. Weird story. On the waterfront, again a built-out waterfront. We're looking at bricks. We're looking at arched windows all along here, right up to the waterfront. And we have a dock now with the buildings on the dock. Seen this in other old world photographs. Not as elaborate looking, but still quite prominent for such a small place. Well, this jumping to the modern day, but an old mansion nonetheless. I have an interior visual of this one as well. We'll get back to the courthouse, but let's have another look at it before we move on. Remember the description of the town I gave you. Very small town at the time, still a small town. And here was my redemption, I suppose. There's a streetcar for you. Okay, so they did exist in this very small town on a peninsula in northern Washington state, as we can see here. This picture giving us again an idea of the waterfront and how built out it was. And this is the interior of the turret on that mansion shown a few slides ago. Starrett Mansion, it's called. This is the Clam Cannery, right on the waterfront again, right in that area where we saw black and white from the 1890s. All of these brick buildings, all of these built out with the ornate fronts. You've got brickwork going right into the water here. Supposedly built in 1885, the Clam Cannery. A Carnegie Library, of course you got to throw one of the robber barons on the names. They're all over the place, I know. Carnegie Library, built 1898, we're told. Why, when the city was in decline, I'm not sure. But there you have it. City Hall, apparently, I don't know, this was difficult to dig up. This could be inaccurate, but maybe not. Another one of those brick fronts. Starrett Mansion again, in their color, a little more modern, still standing. Really love the shape of this here. Very interesting building nonetheless. Bartlett House. So you definitely got some taste for architecture going on in this town. Let's get back now to the Jefferson County Courthouse. Built apparently, let's have a look at Wikipedia. And now when I say apparently, I've had people say, well, why do you doubt these dates? Well, there's some issues. So I got Wikipedia telling me this is 1892 that it was built. You've got a couple photos of this place, of course. You've got the hospital in the background, which you'll see. Something else here, some built out architecture going on there. Again, this postcard. So I dug up this postcard, and I was told it was from an 1890, from the August 9th, 1890 edition of West Shore. 1890. So we just looked at Wikipedia, and it told us this was built in 1892, yet this showing up in an edition of West Shore in 1890. And that's why I question these dates. And I suggest you do the same, but you don't have to. It's up to you. You live your life the way you want to live it. A few more pictures now of the courthouse and the blockwork involved and the brickwork and how they blended the two. This picture also taken apparently in 1895. And this picture telling us that this was built in 1890. I have to write up with this. So, you know, who knows? Also getting contradictions with what's behind it. In some pictures we saw in the postcard, it had a bit more of the brick built out buildings. So always these little weird contradictions that pop up. Here's a staircase on the inside. I've done a lot of this kind of work, balustrades, and this is very intricate, ornate work. Again, would take serious carpentry skills to pull this off and a serious amount of time. So just wanted to showcase that as well. And then let's have a look at a few more. The Manresa Castle. Again, remember, this is a small town. Circa 1910 here. Don't have much other information on this, but this also a very familiar look to what we see from a lot of these old world buildings. Post office, of course, and this one thrown up I think at the very late 1800s as well. I don't have the date on hand, but I think it's 1898 or somewhere in there. And again, why would you build something like this in a town that was actually on the decline at that point, population? Here's a hospital. And this is the back view again of the Sterrett mansions. That's just a quick look at Port Townsend, Washington State. I'd never heard of this place before, and I saw the comment, and so I spent a little time looking around and found it interesting, wanted to share with you. Thank you for watching this. If you enjoy it, please like, share, subscribe. Take care.